All right, what's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another Coffee Q&A, your dose of coffee Q&A here on the OnoCoffee channel. I'm Jay, your host, and we're back for another week of Coffee Q&As. This is the 23rd of December. Can you believe how close we are to Christmas? How fast the year has gone by. So amazing. So how's it going? Today, our topic is going to be the Syphon, because Naomi's been asking for the Syphon, so let's talk about the Syphon. So we got Syphon here, and if you're not too familiar, Syphon is actually a brewing system that started or was invented in the United States by someone, I forgot who it is already, but it was developed here, was kind of popular here like in the 1940s and stuff like that, and then in the 1950s, the popularity waned. But as it was waning here in the United States, it started to increase in Japan. And now today, the biggest place for Syphon type coffee is in Japan. You can go to Japan and find coffee shops that are very focused on producing Syphon coffees, where they've taken it to a whole nother level. They've got, like you can see, this is a burner, a halogen burner, right? This basically you turn it on and it's got this halogen light that has an infrared lens on it, and that just, I guess it just generates the better heat. So they've got these. This is actually this is made in Taiwan, but there's a lot made in Japan, and they even gang them up to 5 in a row, and you'll find these baristas, or what they call siphonistas, who are there and they're working their way down the line, just making Syphon coffees for mass quantities of people. It's highly impressive. It's an incredible thing to see. Peter, how are you this morning? And Maku, good morning as well. And like I happened to be going to visit my old kumuhula, Michael de la Cruz, in Hiratsuka, Japan. And I went down, took the train from Tokyo all the way down to Hiratsuka, got out, and I'm walking, going to meet him. And then I see, as I'm walking through the train station in Japan, some of the bigger ones will have department stores connected to them. So, you'll walk through the department store, and there was this coffee house there. There's actually a video about this on the channel. That's live. That's been live for a few months. That follows my adventure visiting. And there are these women that are working this cafe, and they're just slaying it. They're slaying it. You're just like, oh my gosh, man. Like when you watch them, you're like, holy smokes, this woman is just like working multiple siphons at a time. There's other women that are cleaning the siphons and bringing her fresh ones, and she's just working. You're just like, I just sat there for a few moments just observing and watching, like just in awe of like the sheer power of it. Like she's just like amazing to watch work, and it was really awesome. Sadly, the coffee wasn't to my liking, but it was more about seeing siphonistas in action. Because in my experience, my travels, I think a lot of the bigger siphon shops are outside of Tokyo, so I've not really been to them. So I was really excited to see that. So the Syphon is really a relatively simple type of brewing. Mom, good morning as well. And Kent, how are you? Kyoni is back from Krungtiap. Good to see you, man. How are things? I was just thinking about you, Kyoni, because I was just putting together over the weekend this year's Christmas video, which will be the video featuring coffee bar tour. It's called Coffee Bar Tours. I don't know why I'm having a hard time remembering, but it's called Coffee Bar Tours. And Kyoni was kind enough to submit a video for that. So we've got a couple of videos it's going to come out tomorrow on Christmas Eve. And yeah, I think it's like, and so if you're interested, so as you're going to see, I'm interested to see what kind of home setups you guys have for your coffee or your espresso, or if you're a professional, even your professional setups, I think will be really interesting for people to see. So if you're interested, grab your phone and make a video. Please make it landscape. If you really want to do vertical, if you're totally like committed to the vertical format, fine. But I would prefer landscape because you just get to see so much more, right? And it fills the screen all the more. But just show us what you have, what you're using, the kind of situation that you're in. Why did you make the certain decisions that you made to choose those items or set it up in the way that you did based on whatever limitations you may have? I think people will find that to be really fascinating. So yeah, that's it. So if you want to, let me know if you're going to do it. And yeah, it can be very simple. It doesn't have to be. And the video that comes out tomorrow, it's going to show you from very simple approach to making the video to someone more, a little bit more fancy, and then really fancy. So there's a whole spectrum, and you don't have to go to, you can do as you feel you're comfortable with. It doesn't have to be, it certainly doesn't have to be on the extreme of like the super fancy. Like that was like, I was like, whoa, that is super fancy. Anyway, free ranges, well, that's what's going on. What kind of mad scientist coffee maker is this? This, like I said, is the Syphon, or also known as the vac pot. It's actually my favorite brewer. I do think it's the best. Like I said in the thumbnail, this is the best brewer, period. I mean, in many respects, I think it is. What I like about this brewer is, well, okay, so from a flavor perspective, I think it delivers the clearest representation of the coffee that you're using above all else, right? It is probably, is it as clear, or maybe the comparison is to say, what is it like to a cupping? I would say it's the clearest with the cupping, right? It has, I believe, the least amount of adulteration of your coffee that's possible. So I think it's really great. Plus, it's also a very visually exciting brewing method, right? So like at Spro in the Hampton shop, when we had multiple brewing methods, right? This, you could order a coffee made in this, but our most highest end coffees, our most expensive coffees would always be brewed in this. Partially because I think, well, a big reason is because it's very clean in the cup's representation, but also it's a very theatrical and very, very like visually stimulating way to make coffee. Now, when you're spending $15 for a cup of coffee, if I just sat there with a V60 and poured, it's kind of wah, right? Like, oh, okay, that's nice. I'm sure it tastes great, but it's like, but here, now you get a whole like visual presentation, and you really get to see that beyond just a V60, when someone makes a Syphon for you, it's really for you. You're like, whoa, that's really kind of awesome, right? It's kind of, it's kind of dope. So that's kind of how we used it at Spro, but I think it's really a wonderful thing. So, but don't let the strange looking stuff get to you or intimidate you, because it's actually very, very simple, and the principles are very simple in how it works. Kerry says, I tried sending you another video, but it was too large. No worries. I think it works out just right, not to worry. Peter says, Syphon is perhaps the most impractical method, instant coffee, especially if you're on a research vessel. This would be quite impractical. I can envision you going on this like research vessel with this setup, but now you've got it all in foam lined Pelican cases, where it's all like laser cut, so everything fits in just right. And then you got to bust it all out, and your people are like, what's going on with you, dude? It's like, I got to make coffee. So we've got a couple different components here. Now, the basic brewer is really just this. This is all like frivolousness, right? Not frivolous, but like it just makes it really nice, right? Like this is the halogen burner, right? Of course, what's really nice about it is that it adds this extra lighting visual element to it. Like that is, how can you say that's not cool? Like that is way cool, right? Très cool. But the basic Syphon is really just these two components. We've got a lower orb that we can take the water out of. I keep water in it, though. You don't have to keep water in it. If you're in a home situation, you do not have to keep water in your lower orb. This is actually a practice that we did at Spro, because this would be sitting on the counter and would be sitting here like this. Now, if by whatever reason a barista or someone actually accidentally turned it on and nobody noticed, it's kind of hard to notice. Like this, if this is sitting in front of you on your station, this big red glowing thing, it'd be very difficult not to notice. But who knows? You can never know what's going to happen. What this does, it heats up the water. But if there's no water in it to heat, then it could theoretically superheat the glass, and it could break and cause a potential hazard for both staff as well as guests. And so that was something. So our practice was always to keep a little bit of water in the bottom, so that just in case it got turned on, you would start to, you would at least have something there as a buffer zone, kind of a safety zone for it to to like, keep everyone safe. Now, if you're at home, you're putting this away, you don't really need it. I just keep it like this and put it away in whatever you want. But I just kind of have it set up because that's it. When I have it set up like this and it's plugged in, I don't feel comfortable unless there's actually water inside the lower orb. Now there's the lower orb that you're going to fit the water. We're going to put the water in here. And the idea is that you have a burner of some sort that heats up the water. So it comes with a alcohol burner, like a little wick style burner. And when I first started getting into Syphon, I was like, that's kind of, I was like, does that even work? I was like, that can't even work. And then it wasn't until many years later, because I always bought they have these butane burners that you can use, kind of similar to the one that I use on the camping setup, but without the little like feet to hold the pot. And I used those for a bit, and those are really nice because the butane is really nice and hot, and it really heats the water fast, which is something that I like. And we would actually keep an auxiliary one on the coffee bar, just in case we needed to augment, or like we had multiple orders, we could actually keep multiple. We could do two at it. We could prepare, while we're brewing one, we could be heating up the other, right? But the one that has the white fuel, the white gas, I finally tried one, and I was like, oh, it does work. Like, it really works well. So the one, it comes with a little like glass, white gas lamp with a wick, which surprisingly works actually very well. So you don't have to buy any of the butane or this infrared light. If you get the kit from Yama, comes with everything that you need. It comes with both of these. It comes with the filter. It comes with the burner. You just need to add the camp gas, and you're good to go. You're good to go. Naomi finally made it. Excellent, Naomi. Good to see you. This episode is for you. So there's the upper chamber. Now this is actually where everything really kind of happens. You put the filter in here. You put your coffee, and then the water is eventually transferred through the stem into the upper chamber. Now, how does this happen, right? Like, the water is all in here, so we heat the water. Well, what happens is there's a rubber gasket here, right? So that sits in and snugs up and creates an airtight seal. Then we have the water already in the bottom. We're going to add heat to it. That heat, as it heats and starts to boil the water and creates the steam. The steam, what is it? The steam water, when it turns to steam, expands at a rate of 1,600% or some wild variable, right? So a little bit of water will actually create an incredible amount of volume of steam. So because it's sealed, there's no displacement, right, except through the stem. So that generation of the steam forces the water through the stem into the upper chamber, right? Now, when it gets to the upper chamber, that's when it mixes with the coffee and does the brewing. And then once that's all finished and you cut the heat to the bottom, that cooling action, now the steam is cooling down and condensing, but it has to, and this is as I'm describing this, is really kind of the first time I've really thought of describing it in this way. So if I'm stuttering a bit, that's why, because I'm actually forming like my theory on it as I'm talking to you. But as it's condensing, the steam is condensing, it needs to compress. So now there's a vacuum that's created because it needs to as the steam condenses, it needs to fill that volume back up with the water that's coming from here, or with something. It could be with air. So if you pull this off, it would refill it with air, right? So, but since there's now a vacuum the vacuum is being created by the condensation of the steam back into water, and it's pulling the water back through, and it pulls it down like the Almighty, pulling it down, right? Pulling it down. And we have a filter that goes right here, right? There's a little spot here, a little like indent, a little bit like, this little, where the filter goes. The filter goes in there and it pulls it through because there's no place for it to go, right? The filter seats all around that stem. So the liquid comes through and is filtered by the filter. And then you end up here at the bottom with beautifully brewed coffee. And that's essentially the vacuum pot or siphon method in a nutshell. Naomi says, this is how we made coffee to order at the cafe in Japan eons ago. You know, it's still being done today. It's still a very modern method. So now we've got also the, let's get the, one of the things about this is that if you're going to have this at home, it's a little bit of a, there's some things, the downsides of this is that it's, you know, it's got this weird orb, difficult to clean. It's got this weird upper chamber, kind of difficult to clean. It's got this filter that has a bit of maintenance right to it. Like, let's show you the filter. The filter you have to kind of keep for best results, because this is a metal filter, right? You can kind of see the metal under here. It's a metal perforated piece of metal here that has this spring, this hook, and then this chain. Now, because sorry, I haven't cleaned this. I know, because this is cloth, cotton cloth, like a flannel or nail drip type of filter. It does do very good job at filtration. However, it does get a little bit dirty, and they say that in order to avoid like bright tones, unnatural bright tones to spoil your coffee, you should always keep your cloth filters hydrated, right? So that means that you keep it in the refrigerator in a pot of water or something like that. That's what we do at Spro. We would keep them in containers that were filled with water. We just put them in the refrigerator overnight. And then, of course, now you clean it. Like this one does need to be clean. I mean, look at this. It's all brown. It needs to be OxyClean. So we just OxyClean bath it. And yeah, so you got to do that. Or if you want, you can, wet it, put it in a baggie, like a sandwich bag, Ziploc bag, and put it in the freezer. And that also does a fairly good job of keeping it. I don't really know the science behind why people say that it has these kind of bright tones because because you allowed it to dry. I don't really understand that part of it. And I've actually never tested it, but what can you do? Naomi says that back then I never even heard of a latte. I don't think anyone heard of lattes prior to 1994. Johnny asks, have you ever used paper filters instead of, my answer really should be yes, because I have paper filters with the style of metal filter holder that you screw in but I've actually never used them. So no, there's a part of me that's lazy. I'm just like, okay, why would I do? Because there's a part of me that's lazy that doesn't want to go through the trouble of doing it, even though I have everything that I need. But also, there's the other part of me is also like, there's no sense or rhyme or reason to this, but I tend to be a traditionalist for no reason, for psychotic reasons perhaps, but this is a traditional way of doing it. Why do I need to do anything else, right? It's like my whole thing with the Chemex and the metal filters. If it's a metal filter, why am I using it? If it's a Chemex, I'm not going to do that. You know what I'm saying, right? To me, Chemex is the paper filter and nothing else. Does that make sense? No, probably not. Probably. Does that have any sensibility for the modern, intellectual? No, of course not. Of course not. But all right. So now to prepare the siphon, Peter says it needs to be held down in place if you use paper. Okay. Yeah. Because the ones have the screw. It's like two-piece, right? So you've got this filter, and it has two pieces that you unscrew it, and then you put the paper, and then you screw it, because the paper, if I remember correctly, has a hole in it, right? Now, one of the things before you use this, since it's been soaking, it's very soaked. So you just want to make it damp. So what I do is I just take a cloth, and I'll just squeeze it out a little bit, just to get the excess liquid out of it. And that looks a lot better. Looks a little bit cleaner, right? Now we're going to take this, and the thing about the siphon is that why do we have this metal contraption? Because these actually have to fit through the stem, and this hook here, is what hooks it onto the stem so that you have enough, and the spring brings the tension so that this seals up against the bottom here and does not allow any it doesn't allow any grounds to flow around it. Okay, so let's do that. Now the thing is, you have to, you kind of have to fish it a little bit. You have to kind of hold it and drop it down. And then you have to make sure that, so the tricky part is now right about here, right? You've got to make sure that it falls down. This cloth filter part lies flat, but the spring falls through. Like that, right? So now it looks like this from the top. And now you must pull on this chain and hook this hook down at the edge of the rim of the stem. And that gives the spring tension that holds the filter in place. And now you're golden. Now it's golden. And now another thing about this chain that's super important, right? Like the chain actually, sticks out so you can pull on it. But if you lose the chain, that's one of the other more important things is that when you put the siphon together, or you put the siphon in the orb, the chain dangles down, right? The chain, as you can see here, is actually sitting on the bottom of the orb. I have learned over the years that this is important because we're using a halogen burner like this, where there's no flame, nothing actually, and I don't understand the physics of this, right? But when you use the halogen, when you use a flame, whether it's the white gas flame that comes with it or a butane burner, that flame is actually kind of touching the orb, right, and heating the water. And that will eventually cause the bubbles from boiling to occur. With halogen infrared heaters, that doesn't happen, right? It just, if you don't put that in there, right, and you just let it sit, and it burns and burns and burns and heats and heats and heats, it's doing its job heating the water. But for whatever reason, there's nothing to break, I guess, the tension, the surface tension. Is it surface tension? I don't know if that's what it's called. Maybe it's what it's called. But the surface tension of the water, it just heats and heats and heats and heats and heats until finally it reaches a point where it's superheated. Then it just explodes and shoots water. Not super dramatic, like it just kind of flows out. But when you're not expecting that, and it happens, you're like, oh my gosh! And then it gets on your glass here, and I don't know if it's really bad to have that, but you shouldn't. I always tell the baristas, wipe the bottom of the orb after they fill it, right? Because we don't want any water to be caught between here and sizzling and boiling, and like who knows if that could cause us more problems. I don't want to find out, because if you blow up this halogen, this infrared lamp or infrared filter, then we have to order that. We don't keep any of those in stock, as backups. Because actually, I've never broken one. We've had like 2 or 3 of these. Never in the 15 years that I've been using these have I broken one. Thank God. Thank God. Unusual too. Unusual. These break these all the time. I've got like tons of these. Like, I don't even know how many. What I need to do is like give these away, because I have lots of these. And so this is the Yama, right? This is the Yama version of the siphon. And it's a nice version. And the Yama is really nice because Yama is, I think, a relatively cost-effective, affordable way to get into siphon brewing, getting the full siphon experience for a relatively reasonable cost. If you get to like the other brands, the Japanese, like the Yama is a Taiwanese company, so it's got this little bit, like I look at it, right, this handle here, it's nice enough, but it's kind of like fuddy-duddy grandfather, right? It's like the brew towers we use. It's fuddy-duddy grandpa instead of like hot sexiness, right? Hot sexiness. Well, if you look at the Tokyo, the Tokyo, or the Hario, they got these sleek, like mid-century modern lines of wood. It's all like sexy. You're like, oh, that's sexy. That's some sexy. This is like fuddy-duddy grandfather. Which is fine, because, fuddy-duddy works as well. And, when you're dealing with people that have never seen it before, they're like, oh, that's pretty awesome. But, just like in kinky boots, you want the red boots. You want the red boots, not the burgundy boots. You want the red boots. This is the burgundy boots of Yama, of siphon brewers. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Now, you can easily put water and heat it up but that takes a long time. Well, at least with the infrared brewer. With the other brewers, actually works pretty well. So what I typically do is we will preheat the water, and at the shop, we would actually have a big water tower that already has water held at 96 Celsius, so that it would just dispense it at 96. So that's what we use for just about every brewing. But you can, now in this case, we're going to have to heat some water. Naomi wants to know, did I already discuss the benefits of siphon brewing? I mean, for me, the benefits of siphon brewing are really the clarity of the flavor of the cup, right? That's, to me, it's really about the flavor of the coffee. And what I like about siphon is it's for whatever reason, the way that it brews just offers a very clean representation of the coffee. And I think it's very close to how you might find the coffee during a cupping, right? Even though the process is quite different. And it's actually a really rapid style of coffee making because it only takes about 35 seconds to brew once you really once you're really into it, right? So it's a really fast brew time, and part of that fastness is because it's a pressurized brew or a vacuum brew, right? So vacuuming it back, but that pressurization of the brew actually it does better for the extraction, I think. So that's why it takes. You don't have to run 4 minutes. You could. I don't think it does you any benefit to that. But that's really, to me, the main benefit is the clarity of the flavor of the coffee. Now, is it better for all coffees? I think. Here's the thing. I don't think of necessarily. I think of more about it represents the coffee as cleanly as it possibly can. Is that better for your tastes? I don't know. Maybe not. I would say perhaps because everybody has preferences, right? Let's say you have a coffee that you really enjoy and you enjoy that coffee as a V60. Will you enjoy it in this? I don't know, because this will probably give you a coffee, it will probably show the coffee in a very clean way. Perhaps cleaner than your V60, and perhaps so clean that you might not like it as much. Right? Now, again, it goes back to with the different brew method. It's not like it's like cooking, right? I like to equate brewing coffee to cooking, where different ways of brewing are like different methods of cooking, because each of those ways are going to highlight and diminish different aspects of whatever it is that you're brewing or cooking. It doesn't change them materially. It just changes the way that they're represented, right? If I get chicken and I roast it, that is going to be delicious, well, potentially delicious, but delicious in a different way than if I went and made a fried chicken, right? Or if I barbecued it over, for an hour over smoke. Different ways of approaching and cooking and brewing will give different interpretations of the same product. So you may not like it. There's always that chance, right? There's always that chance you may not like it. Naomi also, is siphon better for light roasting? I think it could be. I think it's great for it. I think what it does, it offers a very clean representation of the coffee, whatever that coffee is. So when I went to that place in Hirotsuka last year, they used this brewer. And that coffee was, god-awful. It was god-awful. I probably didn't say that in the video, but I was like, oh my gosh, it's so difficult. It was dark, it was bitter, it was burned, it was just not to my liking. Does that mean that it represented it better? Well, and I think it just represented very cleanly. However they had that coffee, it was very cleanly represented. But I think that this is the most, perhaps second to cupping, this is the cleanest and most truth. It brings out the truth of the coffee, right? So is that good for light, medium, dark? Yes. Any coffee you can put in this and get truth from it. right? Other methods will kind of discolor it or like add, like I said, let's say on the extreme would be French press, right? French press has got, you got the oils that are coming out of it, you've got the sediments that are coming part of it. So those are going to impact the coffee in a way that could hide it, could change it, but could add extra body that may not, but this is clean. This is clean. This is truth in coffee. Peter says it looks cool. It's Kitchen Club that says that looks sexy on your bench. Absolutely, and that's what you want. You want, as a guy, you want the woman to come over and be like, "What is going on there? Like, why are you doing this?" Right? And suddenly, why is it all like bright? You're like, "Oh yeah, this is what we're talking about now. This is what we're talking about, right? This is what we're talking about." So that's what you want. Sexy benchtop. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to brew coffee. We're pretty much following the same ratio that we normally follow. I got some boiling water here. Let me turn that off for a bit. We're going to use some of the Ethiopia Dukama Rumudamu from Cafe de Bola. And why are we using this? Because I think this is a lighter roast. So Naomi, here's an answer for you. This is a lighter roast by John Piquet from Cafe de Bola, and really lovely coffee. Lighter roast, more delicate flavors, fruitiness. And part of the reason is that when you go to his shop, he brews in Syphon as well. So let's do that and actually the Akira heater actually is what John sells. Actually, he doesn't. I checked this morning, he doesn't have any in stock at the moment, but there it is. Now we're gonna get some coffee. We're gonna use the same ratio. We're gonna make 12-ounce cup. We're gonna use 24 grams to make that 12 ounce. Let's get our Fellow Tally Pro, which actually, okay, I've really come up with my little pet peeve of this, right? So this SE, the special edition, has this piano finish, right? This really nice high gloss, which is really cool. But until it gets dirty and gets all spotty, and then you have to clean it, and it gets spotty right in here, and it's really difficult to clean in there and wipe it down so it gets all like shiny. Right? Look at that. Oh, that does look shiny. So that's my pet peeve with this thing. I wish there was just like maybe 2 millimeters more space between these two, and that would be really nice. That would be really helpful. Okay, so we've got, oops. Oh, what the heck? What am I doing? Weight, milliliters, grams. Okay, we'll go to grams. I'm not going to make fun of these milliliters anymore. That's kidding. Naomi says, Akira, Yama, all sound Japanese. Yes. Actually, but here's the odd thing, right? Both Akira and Yama are made in Taiwan. Okay, 24 grams. See, that's fairly light on the roasting, right? Look at that. That's pretty light. Okay, let's get our other. Move this over here. Get our fellow Gen 2. And, okay, that's clean. We're going to go pretty fine. I'm going to take it to the 4 setting. I don't really know what any of this means. I'm just kind of going, we normally will brew like pour overs, V60s type of things at the 6. So now we're going to go to 4. We could probably go to 3. Let's go to 2 point, whatever that is. Why they put two clicks between the numbers, I still don't understand. Is that 2.1, 2.3? I don't know. Anyway, let's grind. And let's grind away. Here, you can't see it. Oh, that's why you can't see it. Everything's getting caught up in it. Hold on 1 second. Let me just pull all this out before it all comes crashing to the ground. There we go. A little bit of action cam action. Peter says that Japan is what's keeping Syphon in fashion. Yes. And they're doing it with a lot of aplomb. Oops, sorry. Let's bring back our stuff here, and Oh yeah, let's measure out. We're going to tear this. Let's see. Let's do this Omniel thing where we're going to check our retention. I kind of feel like this is kind of big and unwieldy sometimes. 23.9. Uh-oh, we're missing coffee. Did we get more of it? No. So we have a 0.1 gram retention in the ode, which means it sucks. Throw this away. Throw this away. It's ridiculous. How can I work in such an environment? Okay, so let's have a look at our grind here. Fairly fine. Now, what we're going to do, we're eventually going to put that in here, but we're not going to do that yet. Now, I'm going to run through you what we're going to do here, because so the thing about the siphon is that there's a lot of time there's a lot of preparation leading up to it, and I know what I forgot. I forgot to get the paddle again. I always forget to bring the paddle. We're going to use a bar spoon. So what we're going to need is we're going to need a couple things. We'll get rid of our scale. We don't need that anymore. We need our burner. There's our burner. Let me go back a little bit. We need our burner. We need our coffee. We need the upper half that has the filter. We need our bar. We need a stirring method of some sort. We need the bottom orb. Okay, then we're going to need the water. Now, here's the thing. What we're going to do is we're going to take this and we're going to add the water, heat it up, bring it, and we're going to add the water, heat it, put this in, making sure that the chain is touching the bottom so that we can see the boiling as it happens. And then we're going to continue to heat up the water until it starts to boil. Now, we're not going to connect the two halves. Once you connect the two halves, it'll start to build the pressure and the steam and start to push it into the upper chamber, which we don't want. We don't want to have that to happen just yet. We want it to, we want to make sure that it's a really nice and hot boiling water before we actually raise the water level. And then once we raise the water into the upper chamber, we need to stabilize the environment. So we're actually going to turn down the heat slightly just because we want to have enough application of heat to keep the steam generation happen so that we keep the water suspended in the upper chamber, because if you lower it too much, it actually starts to cool and condense and then pulls it all down. And once you lose the once it starts to pull the vacuum on it and the steam starts to condense, it all just collapses and you're just done, right? So you want to make sure that you watch that. Now we're going to add so once that's all equal, we're going to add the coffee in and make sure it's all saturated, and let it run for 35 seconds. 35, and this is the part, once you get to the point you've lifted it up and you're ready to add the coffee, everything's pretty easy or pretty light, relaxed. It's the moment you add the coffee that that the intensity becomes very high, because now the barista has to focus on for 35 seconds. You got to make sure that you get the coffee in, you get it all saturated, make sure that all the coffee is saturated in the water. And then at 35 seconds, power it off. Give it the right amount of stirs so that you create a vortex inside here, and then the thing drops. And now you can do a couple things. Sometimes it's so hot that it takes a while for it to drop, which we don't want. We want it to drop faster. Some people will take a dry cloth even will work, or this particular case will be damp, and they will actually do this, which cools the orb down, creates, drops the temperature, causes greater condensation of the steam back into water, and has that pulling action. Now, what's happening, what we want to see this vortex happen inside here, so that by the time it all flows through and we start to see the bubbles, because once you start to see bubbling in the bottom, that means that it's pulled all the liquid back through and now it's only air and you're completely done. We want to see a mound, a nice round symmetrical mound at the bottom on top of the filter. And and like I said, these are things that we look at in brewing whether it's coffee or espresso, as baristas, we're looking for visual cues to tell us whether or not the brew turned out as close to ideal as possible, right? Like we talked about those things with espresso, like we're looking at different things like the basket, the condition of the puck, the color and the flow of the crema and the espresso. We're looking at the color of the espresso, the volume, because we can't taste it to make sure that it tastes right. We can only use visual clues to tell us that, okay, it looks like we're on target. And that's the same thing with this siphon. These are the visual cues, like the mound, the bubbling, that tells us, okay, it looks pretty good. Naomi's asking, is it washed or natural? It is a natural. The coffee is a natural coffee from Ethiopia, from the Rumudamu, Jukamo Rumudamu Co-op. Naomi says, I don't remember being cut. Well, I mean, I'm giving you, like, when you watch someone doing that knows what they're doing, it's simple. It's so simple. Like, but as with anything that's simple, it's not easy, right? Like someone that really takes the, like, you know, it's just like brewing, like if you like brewing it that you have at home, right? If you're a pour over brewer, like, yeah, you're just pouring water over the coffee. So what? That's so easy. But no, no. We have to know how many grams. We have to know how much flow rate. We have to make sure that there's water saturated. Did you clean? Did you saturate your filter correctly? Did you do all this other? So many variables that are involved in something so simple. And the same thing with the siphon, right? And I'm trying to give you this rundown of all the different things that'll be happening that I'm actually paying attention to in the moment, especially since when we get to that 35 seconds, like if we were in a cafe environment, like we could be talking like this very, very normally. But once that 35 seconds, once the coffee goes in, then it has to be focused. And actually, that's what I don't talk to you at the shop. Like, okay, I can't talk to you because if we don't hit these parameters, like this 35 seconds, these are critical moments, right? I need the timer. These are critical moments that we need to watch so that we can get as good a result as we possibly can for you. So, all right, now we've got our water. Let me just reheat that up here to bring it to a boil. I would love to have a siphon, but I'm pretty sure, you will break this. Chances of you breaking this are very, very slim. Like this, I don't think we've ever broken these. We've broken a hell of a lot of these because you're cleaning this one a lot, right? And this gets the one that's handled the most, dropped. Like I used to buy them by the case, just the tops, because we're just going to go through them. Okay, now we're back to boiling on the water. So on here, I should show you this earlier, I totally forgot. So on here, we're not measuring the water like by the gram this time. There's a little 3 here. Why 3? 3 is basically like 4 ounces. 4 times 3 is 12. And so we put the water to that line, more or less. Yeah, so it's, it's basically to that 3. I'm going to put that on here and we're going to add the heat. Now I'm turning it all the way up to full power, right? I'm at full power. And I'm going to put this in now just to make sure that it has a tension. Now there's a rubber gas stopper here, right? So I'm putting it right on top of the rubber stopper. And like, here's the part that gets me all freaked out. Even to today, I'm totally uncomfortable doing this. But you see this rolling around, you're like, oh my gosh, it's not going to fall out. The stem is too long. Like crazy stuff would happen. We would probably have to have an earthquake for it to fall out. But this, I could do this all day long. Nothing's going to, oh, don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that. But so if you're using this, you don't have to necessarily worry about that. Now, so we're going to heat this up. As you can see, there's a little bit of bubbles. Maybe you can see it. Can you see it? You can kind of see a little bit of bubbles here. A little bit of bubbles are starting. We want it to come to a nice hard rolling boil because why? It's like, whoa, you're heating it too much. But by the time it raises up into here and the heat is dissipating at the top, it's going to be right around 204, 200 degrees, somewhere right around there. I'm not too worried about that. Naomi says, I like your teddy bear tummy. You know, I got this from the 100 yen store. Actually, I think I got this one from the 100 yen store right by Shinjuku Station. Peter says, how about don't put water in the bottom flask. Just heat it to expand the air. Pour hot water above on the ground. Shut the heat and cool the bottom flask to draw the water. Well, I think the thing is that that's a good question. Maybe we'll try that one time. But based on what I was saying earlier, which, like I said, is the first time that I really articulated in this manner, that it's the steam that's forming from the water in the lower part, right? The steam that is creating that pushes the water into the upper chamber, right? If you start off empty, I think it'll just fall through. Or maybe we start a little bit here, and then so to create that steam. But I don't know if maybe we'll try around with that. Maybe I'll try that. The 100 yen stores are awesome. They're awesome. You know, I was watching did I say this the other day? I was watching a YouTuber that I follow, What the Pato, Patricia O'Connor. She was at a 500 yen coin like lunch place, and she got this like nigiri sushi platter, but probably had 8 pieces of sushi on there, mixed nigiri, right, with miso soup, and like I'm sure she got the tea for 500 yen for $3 and what, 17 cents, a full meal with 8 nigiri. I was like, what in the? I said I made a comment on her video. I was like, I can't even get the miso soup for $3 here in America. Okay, so you can see here now we're boiling, right? So now we're boiling, and now we're going to add this to. Let me turn this around here. We're going to connect the two like that, right? Now it's going to start to push its way up. I probably should have let it boil a lot harder, but as you can see, it's coming up now, right? It's coming up now. Deb says, did you offer this in your shop? Yes, every day. If so, how did you balance quality versus efficiency? I feel like let me answer that after we've brewed this, because that's a little bit more of a discussion. Only just because I want to give you the right answer. So now we're raising the water. Now, as you can see, the water is raising slowly, mainly because I probably should have heated it hotter. Got a much more rolling boil, but I can see it is boiling here. Now, again, like I said, if we didn't have the chain on the bottom, we wouldn't have as much rolling boil. Now, one of the problems is that it's a little bit chilly in my house, right? So I think it's having a little bit more difficulty keeping the heat. And one of the things that we're going to have to worry about is that when we lower the temperature, we don't want to just lower it, just bring it right off the top, right off full blast. We could. Now all the water is pretty much in the top. We could lose the level, because what I found is that when we started doing this, like in 2006, at our first Spro, we were on this pathway, on this bridgeway at the library, and sometimes when the door outside during the winter would open and the door into the library would open, and there would be just enough breeze, that breeze might hit literally would hit the ore in a certain way and cause it to collapse, which I was like, first time it happened, I was totally shocked. Okay, now we've got everything up, right? We've got our timer ready to go. I'm going to lower the heat setting just slightly, just to hold it up. Now we're going to add the coffee. Make sure that it's fully saturated. That's enough. And now we're going. We're at 10 seconds. We're just going to let it go. We're just letting it brew, and it's holding everything in here. It's actually, the boiling in the water is causing turbulence that's causing it to mix. 21 seconds. And that's all kind of happening, and it's doing its brewing thing, and blah, 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 blah. 29 seconds, 30, 31, 32. Now at 35, I'm going to turn off the power, get in here, get some nice vortexy going on, and what I'm going to do that assist. It's already started to fall, right? Oh, it's already falling. I don't need to do this. But if I want to go faster, I can put this on here, and it's going to pull it down even more, create more condensation. But as you can see here, it's falling rapidly and spreading. Oh, and then, there it is. It's moments like this So we got the orb. Now you can see there's boiling here, right? They're still boiling because it's still pulling. It's still pulling. Now it's going to slow down and stop. But what I can do is I can just, come on, just gently. You don't want to rip it out. You just want to like work it out, right? When it's really tight like this, just going to work it slowly, slowly. All right. Now, as you can see, we've got our orb. We got the orb. This is the orb. This is what we're looking. This is exactly what we're looking for. When you go to a siphon place, and you're like, and let's say if you want to be that guy, that customer at the coffee shop, you go to the siphon place. You can tell your friend, really, yeah, they did it wrong. Look at that. Look at the. There's no mound. There should be a mound. This is one of those times, like, for me personally, this is one of those times where it's like, I tell you about certain techniques or certain aspects of brewing that are kind of important, and I'm no longer making this kind of thing on a daily basis. So there is a part of it that's like, will I be able to do this? So when it turns out well, I do have the chops after all. My goodness. So there it is. There's our mounding. We can take it out. Now be careful because all of this is very hot. Now this comes with a little stand. So I just put it in this stand so that we can keep it to the side. As you can see here, the mound. There you go. That's the mark of a professional right there. That's the hallmark of true, brewing genius, right? That's brewing genius. Don't deny it. Don't deny it. Okay, so there we go. So we were finished. So we finished our brew in about a minute, right? Now, one of the things that we do is we'll serve this coffee. We'll just pour it out into a cup and serve it to our guests. Now, this is the key that you want to bear in mind if you're brewing with this. This is the hottest coffee you're going to serve. Like this is the McDonald's lawsuit of scalding coffee level kind of temperature, because we've been heating the water nonstop throughout the brewing process, and only now is it being allowed to cool. And it's also been very contained. So it's contained in this teeny tiny like orb that has this small orifice. So there's not too much heat that's allowed to escape. So when you serve it to yourself or your friends or your guests or whatever, make sure that you tell them, hey, be very careful, because this is something we would train our baristas that was something they always wanted to tell the guests, that this is also super hot. So be very careful with it, right? Take your time with it. And ideally, like if you go to John P.K.'s place in Cafe de Bola, you want to order like a Syphon coffee, he's going to tell you crazy stuff like, you need to give him 45 minutes. You're like, 45 minutes? Because he's going to make this for you. You're going to sit down, you're going to put this on the table, and you're going to sit there and chat, and you're going to take your time to allow it to cool down a little bit. Maybe don't drink it for 10 minutes, which sounds like craziness to me. Even I'm like, that sounds like craziness. Tell people to wait 10 minutes before they drink it. But that's probably a good idea, because right now it's super hot. Like it's just way too hot to drink and enjoy. Like you could scald your palate. Like definitely you'll scald your palate, right? We don't want that to happen to you. Okay, so Deb was asking, did you offer? Yes, we offered this brew method. This at the Spro in Hamden, this was one of 7 different brew methods that you could get with an order with any coffee on a daily basis. So how did you balance quality versus efficiency? Well, that's the thing. So like, because we weren't, we were not just solely a siphon house, right? So we would designate, so how we worked our menu is that we would have a selection of coffees on our menu, maybe like 7 to 10 coffees a day, on a regularly rotating basis, not daily rotating basis. That would be much more difficult, and we didn't have that kind of volume. But we would also kind of taste the coffees, figure out which brew method that we had that we felt best represented the coffee. The most expensive coffees, the rarest coffees, would always be done with the siphon because of a couple factors. It has the greatest clarity, so I think it delivers the most truth in the cup about the coffee, and it's also visually appealing and exciting. A lot of theatrics, so that you felt, hopefully that helped to bolster the thought that you're getting something more for your exorbitantly priced coffee. Now, because it was also the most expensive coffees were typically offerless, and that way they were also not being purchased at a high volume, right? At a high rate. We're not paying the rent on all of these like super high-end coffees. We're paying the rent on our batch brew coffee or just the more approachable house coffee, right? So that kind of mitigated the need for like necessarily having we don't have to worry so much about volume with the Syphon. Now, there would be times, of course, when you have multiple people come and buy a Syphon coffee. And that's why I mentioned earlier, we would keep some of the butane burners, the little like tiny butane burners you could stick under here so that we could like maybe set up 2, maybe 3 of these and heat them. So that, and we only had one of these. So then by the time we finished the one, the next one could go on and we could keep it somewhat rapid. But if you're thinking about like, how do you manage Syphon brewing as a Syphon-based shop, then they do manufacture these type of heating elements, heating infrared heaters in 1, 3, and 5 gang model, so that you can, when you have, especially with the 5, then you can really just go and just keep going. And you got to have multiples of everything. But that is the best way to maintain efficiency in a very heavily Syphon focused environment. I feel like this takes too long to offer in the regular. I mean, it takes it. Like I said, I went to these places in Japan that have this Syphon as their main brewing method. It doesn't really take that long. It's as with anything, it's always just a matter of learning how to do it and working it efficiently, right? Like, it's taking a long time today because I'm explaining everything to you. But if we're just doing this in a shop environment with someone that actually has experience doing it, like anytime that you're starting out with a new barista, they're always going to have a learning curve. And but if once they get past that learning curve and they get into the groove, I mean, it's fairly simple. And if you have the key to using this in a commercial environment, you would have multiple Syphons, and then you would also have somebody. Ideally, you would have somebody backing you up, like your bar back, that would be, cleaning them out, turning them around, and bring them back to you. Otherwise, you run through your 5 setups and then you have to go and clean them. So, or, find a way to manage that in between. But there's not too much time in between brews because it's only 35 seconds. It takes a minute total to brew. So at home, you got a little more time and, it's kind of fancy. You want to, bring your lady friend or male friend. You want to impress them. Like, let me show you some coffee making skills here. Naomi says, Japan just lives in the future, always innovative. Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Like, I love my little Suica card because I can just use it pretty much everywhere. On the train, in the subway, in the taxi, at the Lawson. It's like, gosh, this is great. I'm like, this is awesome. I have not switched to the Suica phone app because I just like the Suica card better because I feel like I'm cooler and like I've been around longer, right? Not too modern. Peter says, no hot air will expand. When it cools, it'll create a partial vacuum to draw water back down. Okay. I'll give that a try. We'll give that a try. No, not today because I don't have any more of these at the moment. Malcolm says, I bet you love that type of customer. Now I don't remember which one that was, but yes, I love customers. Oh, you mean the ones that pay that want to buy the expensive coffee? Of course. But I love all our customers, like I think that it just, to me, the joy of hospitality for me is working with people and, getting to get to know people of all spectrum and strata, just very interesting. Like we would have, just regular, working guys coming in and, lawyers and celebrities would come in, like movie stars would come in and be all kind of fun. And just to kind of talk to them, killers. We've had murderers too as customers too. It's very, we have all kinds of people. We serve everybody. It's like we're happy to welcome you as long as you don't get too crazy with us. Oh, oh, I see. Walks in the local coffee shop and then looks at the Syphon and claims wrong. Here's the interesting thing. Like, I hear from a lot of like coffee people that they get these customers that are very difficult, and I'm like, in my years of doing this, I don't really recall many people being that difficult. And I don't know what it is. Like, maybe even my staff doesn't have that many stories, I don't think. At least they don't tell me if they do. But like, I don't know if I'm a big guy, or maybe I just look like the kind of person that just won't put up with like your nonsense. But like, I don't really get a lot of those difficult people, and what I don't get are those people that come in and they want to have these crazy like latte orders, like half calf, decaf, whatever. I don't know what. They don't even say that to me, so I don't even know what that's like. So I don't know. Maybe it's our environment. I don't know. But I haven't really had too many difficult customers. Like, I always kind of like said that, if that person came in with a TDS meter, I would throw them out to be like, you get the hell out of here. It's like, that's only 18%. Yeah, you could leave now. You should just leave. You should just go. Just go. Well, I'm going to write about this on the internet. Please write about it. Let me give you my YouTube channel name. Naomi says, speaking of McDonald's, has your skin started? No, you know what? I'm fairly. I haven't looked. It's on the back of my thigh, but I feels fine. Like, it was a little bit tender that day, but like after that, no big deal. Like, no big. Like, for the most part, I feel like I can take a lot of heat. I only got burned once working. Like, I don't know what it is, but like one day, and this is why you wear certain things. Like, we would, I'd have my staff always wear long pants, always wear cotton clothing. Closed-toe shoes, very important. Closed-toe shoes, non-mesh shoes. Well, there I am one day. I love to wear New Balance shoes, right? So, years I had been doing this. By the time this happened, this probably happened in 2018. I've been doing my own thing for 19 years by this point, right? Like I said, we use a hot water tower for the hot water. We keep it 96 degrees Celsius, and I don't know what it was. I was rinsing something, maybe something like this, and something I had done thousands of times before. I'm standing, my right foot forward slightly, right? Pull on the hot water tap. Water goes in. For whatever reason, it sloshed up, out, and I saw this glob of just kind of fall. It fell right on the top of my shoe, right on the top of the foot here, right into the mesh, and it burned the top of my foot. I was like, because I guess the top of my foot's more sensitive because it's just not exposed to anything. But I was like, oh, it's like, oh my gosh, like that got a little bit like tender and a little bit tender for a few days. So that was the worst one that I'd had. I think that's the worst. Maybe I've had worse. I just don't remember, but that was one that stands out. So yeah, you just got to be a little bit careful. Peter says, no, my idea won't work. Oh, okay. No, okay, that won't work. The volume of airspace with and without water will be different and will play part of the drawdown. Okay. Well, you know what? It's always good to hypothesize and to try to work out ideas. Naomi says, I don't care. I don't know. I don't know what the card is. Suica is Suica. So Suica. Okay, so you're from Okinawa, right? So that's why. You're not a Tokyo person. So, and I hear there's a lot of like, Tokyo people are supposed to be something, right? So was it JR West, JR East? JR West is this way, West. In JR East, there is the Suica card, and it's this card that you buy for 500 yen, and it's refundable. So when you're finished using it, you can return and get your 500 yen back. Really great. But it's a card, it's an IC card that you put all your money in. And each region, my understanding is that the other regions of Japan have, and their railway systems have their own IC cards under different names. There's, I don't know the name of it, Icoca or something like that in other parts. Maybe JR West has Icoca or something. I have not been outside of Tokyo in many years, so it's very difficult for me to know anything else. It's really terrible. But the Suica card is basically this IC card you put money on, and you can use it in pretty much every transportation system in the country. And my understanding is that when you go outside, if you have a Suica card and you go outside of the JR East zone, they do have interline agreements, so everything works. It's really sounds fantastic. And you can use these to pay at the taxis. You just kind of beep, beep, kind of like how the phone does the beep, beep, right? It's kind of like that. And, you walk into, you have like I have mine in my little case, my Suica card. So as you walk up to the turnstile, you just go beep, 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 and doors open, or they don't, and they tell you you don't have enough money, and you put more money on it. So I'll put I don't know, maybe I'll go there when I arrive, I'll put 10,000 yen on the card, and then you can use it to travel anywhere, and then you can use it to, if you go to the Konbini, right, the Lawson, the 7-Eleven, the Family Mart, you can pay for your sundries there. So really hyper convenient. And then even a growing number of restaurants, you can even, use the Suica card. And I think at Tokyo Hands, you can use the Suica card. Like, it's pretty awesome. Like, it's the precursor to Apple Pay. Like, if this Apple Pay probably looked at like Japan, it was like, Suica card, we need to put that on our phone, right? So that's kind of the idea behind the Suica. Peter says if you start with water with less airspace, it'll create a greater pressure differential in the vacuum. Oh, so fill more water here to get the greater pressure. Well, but then we would just have to ratio differently our coffee, right? So we add more water, and then we provide more coffee to balance that out. I'm just easy going. Well, thank you. That's very kind. Yeah, Suica, very impressive, Naomi. Very impressive. Okay, so we've babbled enough. So let's look at our elixir. Now, I have to say that I think I do need to replace this filter, because I should just take that cotton cloth, throw it away today, because it's actually dead. It's dead. And here's why we can tell this, because look at this. This is cloudy. This is a cloudy coffee. This is not clear. And that is a sign that the cloth, the flannel filter is dead. This is a great example. Actually, this didn't happen the last time I used it, so this is definitely. So we're going to have, this is not, so if I was to make this in the shop environment and I saw this, I would have to reject it and make a new one. I would get the new filter, put it back on there, and redo it for the guest, because this is not how we would want the coffee to be served. But since it's just me, I'll drink anything. Now, I've been babbling for a good 5 minutes or so, and this coffee is still pretty darn hot. Like, it's hotter than I would have expected. So it's a nice coffee. It's not as clean as I like it to be. So because of that, it's got the sediments in it, but pretty good. Oh, that's right. I have to. Amniel, man. Thank you very much. That's very kind. Amniel, the video comes out tomorrow. Okay, so I brought this. I can't believe it's already past an hour now. But I brought this along. This is what we call mamon. In Filipino culture, this is one of our desserts, our little like pastry, bakery kind of stuff. This is from a company called Red Label in the Philippines. And this was made in the Philippines and shipped to America, shipped frozen. And then, this is kind of how we get. So what is mamon? Now, this is something that I grew up eating, part of my culture, right? I had to look on Wikipedia to see what is mamon. Like, I don't know. Like, I was thinking about that as I was getting ready. I was like, I'm going to describe the mamon, but what is mamon? Like, it's one of those things that you just have lived with your entire life. You've been eating it your entire life, so you don't think about it. Like, if you were to say to someone, like, if you grew up in, like, I don't know, Lancaster County, Pennsylvania, and you've been eating shoe fly pie all your life, you're like, what is shoe fly? I'm like, well, I don't know. What is fried chicken? I don't know. Describe what an orange tastes like. I don't know. Right? So what is mamon? I don't know. So mamon, I had to look it up. So mamon is this, it's a sponge cake. It's a chiffon cake kind of dessert. Like, Filipinos love chiffon cake, and we love to have butter and cheese on pretty much all of our baked goods. So mamon is this sponge cake that's typically put in these fluted type of like baking things. So you kind of, this is commercially done. So there's a little bit of flutes on this, but you pull it open and it's got this spongy cake to it. And we like to put the cheese. Oh, there, see the sponge? I hate to say it, looks kind of like tasty cake. The sponge, the crumb looks like tasty cake. What's the tasty cake that has the chocolate frosting, the chocolate cake? I love that. I love that. This is different. It's not as sweet. It's got better textures, lighter, fluffy area. Filipinos, like I said, love cheese, chiffon. So we love chiffon and butter. So it's baked chiffon with some butter, lots of butter. And then the queso de bola, or the cheese, right? So I thought this would be a great accompaniment for our coffee. Now, what is this, right? It's very much like, what's the kuchen that you roll, right? That sponge cake that you roll, very much like that. It's very much a sponge cake, right? Now, if you're like, I don't know, but I think a lot of my American friends, they don't like sponge cake as much, right? We like the moist crumb of American style cake. The chiffon cake, I don't know. I feel like people don't like that. I don't know why, but I like it. So it's a nice, lightly sweet, not too sweet. That is a nice accompaniment. Peter says my coffee is probably wrong. No doubt, man, no doubt. Happy holidays to you, Neil, as well. Yeah, we were just talking about you. Like Japanese castella bread, exactly. Very, very similar. I think though castella is a little bit, at least the castellas that I've had, I think have a little bit more resistance. This is like really light and fluffy. I think castella tends to be a little bit thicker, a little bit more, not bite, but like just a little bit more más fuerte, right? A little bit more. I like it. I love them both. Like I will eat both. O'Neill says, I went to Big Face yesterday. Do you know the brand? I don't know the brand, but I did see your post about it. Log rolls, exactly. All right, so this is one way to enjoy your coffee, the Syphon coffee. So make sure that you replace your filters as necessary. I have to replace this one today, or I should just throw it away. I don't know why I didn't do that before. I mean, I've got so many of them. So ridiculous. All right, so we are well past the time, so we're going to go now. Back again tomorrow with another coffee Q&A for Christmas Eve. Yes, says Miami Heat, Jimmy Butt. That guy. Okay. He was on the cover of Barista magazine at one point. I'm really bad at Miami basketball or sports in general. I'm very bad. Sorry. I'm a Ravens fan that doesn't watch the Ravens very often. Like I watched part of it on the game on Saturday. Like, okay, are we winning? Good. We're almost winning. Okay. Looks like we're good. I'm going to go back to my workshop. So terrible. I used to go to the games all the time, but I haven't gone in a long time. But all right, Mom, good to see you. I'm Neil, Peter, Kent, Naomi, everybody. Back again tomorrow. Hope you have a great one and see you next time.